Hello, welcome to Unbelievable Tales.
She wasn't supposed to bring her son to work. He wasn't supposed to notice. And yet, the moment billionaire CEO Grayson Cole laid eyes on the quiet boy with familiar eyes, everything he thought he knew about control, legacy, and the past began to unravel. Maya Rivers had buried the truth long ago, even from herself. She never planned to tell anyone how she became a mother. But secrets have a strange way of finding their way home, especially when the child you're hiding might already look too much like the man you're trying to forget. Before we dive into the story, comment below where you're watching from. Enjoy the story, everyone. Maya Rivers never thought becoming a mother would be the easiest decision of her life. It wasn't planned. It wasn't romantic. But after a decade of chasing deadlines, boarding planes, and translating billion-dollar deals in 2 languages without missing a single nuance, she knew something was missing. Not someone. She'd long given up on that idea. Something. Her son, Liam, had arrived on a rainy March morning 3 years ago with a wrinkled forehead and a quiet strength she didn't know babies could carry. He never cried much. Just watched the world like it was a code to break. A small part of her had hoped he wouldn't ask about his father for a long time, maybe forever. And so far, he hadn't. He just curled into her side at night and whispered, "You and me," like a promise. By the time the email from Cole International arrived in her inbox, Maya had almost forgotten what ambition felt like. The subject line was simple: confidential interpreter inquiry urgent. The sender? Victoria Hale, executive coordinator to Grayson Cole. The Grayson Cole. She read the message 3 times before replying. They needed a high-level Mandarin interpreter with experience in legal and diplomatic environments. Someone discreet, flexible, precise. The kind of person who could walk into a volatile negotiation and disarm it with a single, perfect sentence. Someone like her. The interview wasn't really an interview, more like a test. A non-disclosure agreement followed by a locked briefing folder and a room full of unreadable expressions. Maya passed it all in 30 minutes. She left the building dizzy with adrenaline and certainty. 3 days later, the offer came. It was everything she never asked for: 6-month contract, triple her normal rate, housing stipend, and direct reporting to the executive team. No room for distraction. No tolerance for chaos. Children were not permitted in office zones under any circumstances. The clause was bolded, underlined, final. She signed anyway. Because she was good. Because she needed this. Because the IVF debt still sat like frost on her credit report. The first 2 weeks passed in a blur of briefings and redacted documents. The project involved a merger between a controversial biotech firm and a Chinese investor group with tight-lipped demands. Maya barely slept. But Liam was used to curling under her desk with his tablet, used to whispered warnings and emergency snacks in file drawers. She told him it was a secret game, like hide and seek, but grown up. The office was sleek, quiet, and full of people too busy to ask questions. Most nodded politely and kept moving. A few helped: covert glances, distraction techniques, even the occasional snack delivery to the printer room where Liam was hiding. Maya learned to be fast, efficient, invisible, until the morning Grayson Cole showed up on their floor unannounced. He wasn't supposed to be there. He had his own suite, his own elevator. His presence sent a shiver through the air like static before a storm. Maya didn't see him at first. She was in conference room B, headphones on, mid-sentence. Liam was behind a folding screen near the back, sketching quietly. The door opened. She didn't turn. And then she heard it. A voice. Low. Curious. "Who's the little guy?" Her stomach dropped. She looked up slowly to find him. Grayson Cole stood by the door, sleeves rolled, tie loosened, holding a coffee he clearly didn't need. His eyes flicked from her to Liam and back again. She froze. No one spoke. Liam looked up. "Hi." Grayson blinked. "Hi." Maya rose. "Mr. Cole, eh?" He held up a hand. "Relax. I'm just surprised. Liam tilted his head. Are you the boss? Grayson nodded once. Apparently. The silence stretched. Maya opened her mouth, but Grayson spoke first. Is he yours? Her breath caught. Yes. Another pause. He nodded again, slow this time. Right? I see. Then, without another word, he turned and left. The door clicked behind him like a verdict. Maya didn't breathe for a full minute. Liam tugged her sleeve. Did I ruin it? She knelt beside him. No, baby. You were perfect. But she didn't believe it. Not until the next day when she arrived at her desk and found a post-it note with one line, written in calm, looping handwriting. I never liked that clause anyway. Gee. She stared at the note for a full 5 minutes before tucking it into the back of her notebook where it stayed like a quiet pulse. No one mentioned it. No one asked about Liam. And Grayson didn't appear again that week. Maya should have been relieved. Instead, she kept glancing over her shoulder, half expecting his voice to return like it had no business doing. It didn't. But the air felt charged, as if the room remembered him better than she wanted to admit. By the following Monday, Liam was running a low-grade fever. Nothing serious. No cough, no vomiting, just warm cheeks, quiet eyes, and a sleepy weight that clung to her arm in the early morning dark. She gave him medicine, wrapped him in his favorite blue hoodie, and whispered, "We'll figure it out." Her plan was simple. Work from home, log in early, get ahead on the next batch of contract translations. She'd already messaged her team lead and blocked out her calendar. What she hadn't planned was for her doorbell to ring at 9:18 a.m. She opened the door wearing yesterday's sweatshirt, coffee in hand, her son curled on the couch in the background watching cartoons with subtitles. And there stood Grayson Cole holding a tablet and wearing the kind of suit that probably cost more than her car. He raised a brow. Working remotely? Her throat dried. Yes. Liam's not feeling well and I didn't want to. I'm not here to reprimand you. She blinked. I came because there's a draft of the Mandarin contract we need to adjust. It's time sensitive. You're the only one I trust to catch the phrasing issues. He stepped inside without asking. Her body tensed automatically, but Liam didn't look up. He was used to voices, movement. He only stirred when the tablet's chime echoed in the room. Grayson looked at him, really looked this time. Maya watched his expression change. Something subtle. Not surprise. Not discomfort. More like recognition. He crouched beside the couch. What are you watching? Liam looked over. Nature show. This episode's about bats. Did you know their wings are fingers? Grayson smiled slightly. I didn't. They sleep upside down. That I did know. Maya stood frozen behind them, clutching her coffee like a lifeline. Grayson didn't push. Didn't pry. He just stayed for 20 minutes while she skimmed through the contract, fixing clause structures and checking tonal implications. When he stood to leave, he paused by the door. Smart kid. She nodded. Too smart sometimes. His gaze held hers. I meant what I wrote. That clause shouldn't have existed. Maya swallowed. Why did it? He hesitated. Because I thought work and family shouldn't mix. I've since started reconsidering. He left without another word. Liam fell asleep that afternoon, breathing softly beside her as she finished her notes. But Maya's thoughts stayed knotted. Because now she couldn't stop seeing it. The way Liam furrowed his brow when concentrating. The precise way he folded his hands when thinking. Even the questions sharp, unexpected, relentless. It was all familiar. Too familiar. She told herself she was imagining it. Until Grayson began showing up more often. First it was contract questions. Then accidental calendar overlaps. Once he dropped by after hours to return a folder and stayed to help Liam build a Lego spaceship. They talked about engines and aerodynamics. Maya didn't even know her son knew that word. But Grayson did. The boy lit up around him. And Grayson softened. He laughed once, really laughed, when Liam tried to explain how gravity didn't count in dreams. Startled Maya. She'd never heard that sound from him. Not in meetings, not even in passing. It was like the laugh had been waiting for the right trigger, and somehow her son had found it. She lay awake that night, staring at the ceiling. 3 years ago, when she and her best friend Ellie combed through anonymous donor profiles at the fertility clinic, she hadn't lingered on any one file. Ellie worked there, had access, and had picked out a few intelligent and clean candidates with good health histories and no red flags. Maya had chosen one with a quiet sense of logic, a background in linguistics and finance, a donor who'd marked open to future contact after age 18, with a cautious checkmark. She hadn't asked for names, didn't want to know, didn't need to know, until now, because something told her she might already be looking straight into the face of the answer. And that terrified her more than any translation ever could. It wasn't just the resemblance anymore. It was the rhythm, the way Liam tilted his head while thinking, one hand curled under his chin. Maya had seen that exact posture in meetings when Grayson was weighing $1 billion risk. The same way they both paced when agitated, talked softly when focused, and hated saying goodbye unless it felt complete. Maya told herself 1,000 times, it's coincidence. Genetics are complex. Children mirror adults. But doubt sat in her chest like a ticking clock. She could have ignored it, could have carried on pretending Grayson was just a boss who happened to like her son. But the way he lingered, the way he'd started asking things, real things, made it harder to keep breathing around the truth. Do you mind if I take him to the company garden sometime? He asked one afternoon, completely casual. As Liam played on the floor, she stared at him. Why? Grayson shrugged, unusually hesitant. He likes plants. We talked about them. Figured I'd show him something beyond screens. She wanted to say no, wanted to protect the small boundary still left. But Liam's face lit up like someone had offered him a planet. Okay, she said quietly, but just let me know ahead. The garden became a thing, twice a week, sometimes more. Employees began noticing, but no one said anything. The CO walking hand in hand with a small boy wasn't gossip. It was a puzzle no one dared to solve out loud. One evening, after a long day of revisions, Maya and Grayson shared a late dinner in the executive lounge. Liam had fallen asleep in a chair nearby, wrapped in a blanket. Grayson set down his wine glass, eyes distant. He reminds me of someone. Maya's throat tightened. Kids do that. He glanced over. I never wanted children. She didn't respond. He continued. Not because I didn't like the idea. I just never thought I'd get to be enough for someone or for a kid. I don't think I'd be a good father. She looked at him, her voice barely audible. You don't seem to be doing badly. Something shifted in his gaze. A silent pause. Then, did you know I once donated to a fertility research program? He said, voice low, like the words had to sneak out. Maya froze. I was young, restless, thought it would be a strange kind of legacy. He chuckled, but it didn't reach his eyes. I never followed up, never asked if anything came of it. But lately, she didn't move. I look at him, and something in me wonders. Silence settled between them like fog. Maya stood slowly. Grayson. He turned to her, expression unreadable. You're not wrong. It landed like glass cracking underfoot. He stared at her, stunned. What? I didn't know, she whispered. Not until recently. But yes, you're the donor. He's yours. The silence became a living thing. Grayson blinked once, then again. His hands were still. His voice, when it came, was a whisper. You knew? And didn't tell me? I only figured it out weeks ago, and I didn't know what to do. You're my boss. This job, this world, was never supposed to mix with him. You should have told me. I was afraid. Of me. She didn't answer, but the look in her eyes said everything. Grayson stood, slowly, carefully. I need air. He walked out without another word. Maya stood there, her heartbeat echoing in the silence, her son still sleeping in the corner, unaware that his world had just shifted. She didn't follow him. She couldn't, because part of her still believed that this was the moment everything would collapse. And maybe it was. But hours later, when she returned home and opened her laptop to check work files, she found a message from him. I'm not angry, just overwhelmed. Give me time, please. It was signed only G. Grayson didn't show up the next day, or the one after that. Maya didn't call. She didn't need to. Every time her phone lit up with a name that wasn't his, something inside her dipped, bracing for a silence that might stretch too long. Liam asked once, while eating cereal in his Batman pajamas, "Is Mr. Cole mad?" Maya paused. No, just thinking. The boy nodded like that made sense. He thinks a lot. So did she. She thought about the first time she'd seen Grayson, not in person but in a stockholder interview. Clean jaw, ice blue stare, a man built like restraint. She'd hated him then, silently, for having so much certainty. She didn't hate him now. She feared what he might become with the truth. By the 5th day, her phone buzzed. A text. Simple. Can we talk? She replied, yes. Come by tonight. He arrived just after 8 p.m., dressed down in jeans and a gray sweater that made him look years younger. She met him at the door, and for a moment, neither of them moved. Then he spoke. Is he asleep? She nodded. Just now. Grayson stepped inside, but didn't sit. I've been going over the timeline, the donation, the file. It all lines up. She didn't interrupt. He looked at her, really looked, and for once his eyes weren't a shield. I never thought I'd be a father. Not like this. Not accidentally. But then again, nothing about him feels like an accident. Maya's breath hitched. He exhaled. I'm not angry. I want you to know that. I didn't do this to trap you, she said quickly. I never even knew who the donor was. Ellie, my best friend. She helped me choose. She didn't know either. It was all anonymous. I believe you. Another pause. But I think we owe him more than this. She nodded. I know. I want to get to know him, not as your boss, not as some mystery man who shows up with Legos, as his father. The word hung in the air like fog. She hadn't said it aloud before, not even to herself. Maya folded her arms, mostly to stop them from shaking. That's a big word. I'm not asking for a title. I'm asking for time that she could give. The following week unfolded like a slow blooming. Grayson joined them for walks. He helped Liam with puzzles, listened when he talked about birds and airplanes and the quiet kids at daycare. He never pushed, never claimed, just stayed. And Liam? He adored him, not because of DNA or gestures, but because Grayson listened like nothing else mattered. One night, after Liam had fallen asleep curled in his lap, Maya sat beside them and whispered, He doesn't know yet. Not really. Grayson nodded. Let's not rush it. She smiled faintly. That's the first time I've ever heard you say that. He chuckled low and real. Weeks passed. Then came the emergency. Liam woke up gasping. His temperature skyrocketed. Maya rushed him to the hospital in her robe, panic clawing at her throat. Tests, scans, waiting. A respiratory virus, the doctor said. Serious but treatable. Grayson arrived minutes after her call. She hadn't even realized she called him. He paced the hallway like someone had unplugged his control panel. When they let them into the room, he sat by the bed, holding Liam's tiny hand in both of his. "I don't know what I'm doing," he whispered. Maya rested her head on his shoulder. "None of us do." And that was the moment he broke. The first tear, the softest sound. Maya had never seen him fragile. But now, in the pale hospital light, he looked more human than she ever thought possible. When Liam opened his eyes and mumbled, "You stayed," Grayson choked a laugh. "Of course I did." And for the first time, Maya let herself believe this wasn't temporary. Liam recovered faster than expected. Kids bounced back like springs, the nurse had said, and Maya clung to that. Within a week, he was back to building cities out of couch cushions and explaining cloud formations like a tiny professor. But something was different now. Grayson started staying for breakfast, then dinner, then weekends. He never announced it, never asked permission. He just became a presence, a dependable, quiet rhythm in their lives. He learned how Liam liked his toast, slightly burnt with honey, and how Maya took her tea black, scalding, no sugar. They didn't talk about labels. They didn't need to. One rainy afternoon, Maya found them asleep on the living room floor, surrounded by crayon drawings and half-built towers. Liam's hand rested on Grayson's chest. Grayson's arm wrapped protectively around him. She stood there for a long moment, something unnameable swelling in her chest. Later that night, as they cleaned up Legos in the quiet, Grayson looked at her. "Have you thought about telling him?" She nodded. "Every day. And? I want to wait until he's old enough to understand. Until it feels right." He reached over and gently took her hand. "When that moment comes, I want to be there." She nodded again, softer this time. "You will be." Spring turned to summer. Cole International adjusted her contract, remote flexibility, reduced travel, a quiet acknowledgement that Maya's value was more than her presence in a boardroom. Grayson never interfered. He never gave her favors. But she noticed how things suddenly moved easier when she asked. They never made a public announcement. No press, no headlines. But people noticed. And no one questioned it when, one Sunday in July, they were spotted walking hand in hand through a local fair, Liam on Grayson's shoulders holding a balloon shaped like a planet. In August, Liam's daycare had a family day. Maya hesitated at first, unsure how to fill the blank on the form marked guardian attending. But Grayson filled it for her, signed it himself, showed up early, brought snacks, took photos. And when a kid asked, "Is that your dad?" Liam looked up and simply said, "That's my Grayson." Maya watched from the sidelines, a lump in her throat. That night, after Liam had fallen asleep, she stepped onto the balcony with him. The city buzzed below, but their silence was its own kind of music. "I don't want to lose this," she said. Grayson pulled her close. "Then don't. I mean it. You could disappear. Walk away. I wouldn't have a claim." He turned to her. "Then let me give you one." Her brow furrowed. "What does that mean?" He smiled, not the practiced, PR1, but the soft, undone version she'd come to trust. "It means I want to build a life that doesn't need contracts or clinics or timelines. Just us. You. Me. Liam. And whatever comes next." She didn't cry. But she almost did. They didn't plan a wedding. Didn't even call it that. They just signed a lease together. Shared morning routines. Introduced themselves at school meetings as his parents. And one evening, months later, Liam crawled into their bed during a thunderstorm and whispered, "Can I ask you something?" "Anything," Maya said. He looked between them, eyes wide, honest. "Did you and Grayson fall in love before I came?" She and Grayson exchanged a glance. "No," Maya said gently. "You helped us find it." Liam smiled sleepily. "That's cool. And just like that, he curled up and drifted off again, secure between the two people who had once been strangers and now unshakably were home. The world didn't change, but their world did. Not because of DNA or coincidence or even truth, because three people chose each other every single day after.
Bye, and don't forget to subscribe to the channel.